It's time for the show that brings the magic right to your speakers. Ears up!
Hey everybody! Thanks for listening to the show. Before you even listen to the show, I'm thanking you for listening to the show.
Yeah.
Because that's how nice we are here at Ears Up Podcast. We have a really cool show for you guys today. Number one, we have a packed studio, which I'm really excited about. I always like it when people turn out and listen live to the show. I think it's fun.
To the point where we had to send people away.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
I feel sort of bad.
I did too.
There's actually a waiting list.
I tried to find
show.
them to sort of like warm it over because I felt like we were being jerks.
Well, not jerks, but we're like,
I mean, it's the truth.
hey.
We just can't fit
Well,
everybody.
The fire marshal came in here, we would have been shut down.
Well,
right?
that's true. But I still felt a little bad.
Well, and that's fine. But, look, you came in 5 minutes before we're about to do a show, and there's a
That's
lot of
true.
stuff going on. So I'm sure they understand. But that was very nice of you, Taryn.
I tried.
You did.
I tried.
You did. And it sounds like you succeeded, too.
Harder than any of us.
That's true. That's true.
Well, yeah, you guys all sat here like jerks.
Yeah.
I was actually standing here like a jerk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Yes, there's a big difference.
So we have a rad show. So not only do we have a lot of people in the studio, which is great, one of them, Caleb, is going to talk to us about what he loves about Disneyland. His dad contacted me, and he's like, look, you want to talk to my kid? And I'm like, sure. You look like you can beat me up. I'll totally talk to your kid. No, I'm just kidding. He's like, you want to do like a YouTube video.
Okay,
and
I look like I'm weak.
I wouldn't say that. You got fire in your eyes, kid. I don't know. So we're going to wrap with Caleb here a little bit for like 5 minutes or so and just chat with an 8-year-old boy about what is cool about Disneyland. What do you guys like? So often we hear from adults about what we like about Disneyland, but I've never really heard from a child what they love about it. Like specifically, not just the act of going to Disneyland, but anyway, you get the point.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk to author David Koenig about his new book. Is called The People versus Disneyland. And the subtitle is How Lawsuits and Lawyers Transformed the Magic. And already kind of sounds, I know, another negative Ears Up show. Those guys, they don't even understand.
But you're getting 2 in a row.
I'm getting 2 in a row, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not really negative. It's just, it's the cost of doing business in California, I think, really.
Yes, it is.
It's the truth is what it is.
It's the truth. These things happen. These lawsuits occurred, and most of them, this might shock you, adults in the room, most of them are garbage lawsuits.
Yeah.
They're people trying to get rich.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
And so, like slip and fall. Anyway, so I want to talk to David about, not that he's a lawyer, but he's done all this research. About, I don't know, what all this means for the park, what additions had to happen to the park based on people's frivolent lawsuits.
Yeah, lots of safety things added to the park.
Tons of safety things. Tons of a lot of the wait in lines now is due to a lot of the safety things that they had to do previously. Now, I'm not saying that that's good or bad because I'd rather be safe than unsafe.
Right.
But there's a line, and he talks in his book about a few things that there's certain expectations. When you ride a thrill ride, you might get injured.
Right.
Or when you board the monorail, you could step off and fall. Or these kind of things that the old Conestoga wagons, people were suing because those were top heavy and they would fall over.
Right.
And the lawyers were able to prove in court that, hey, look, there's a reasonable consideration you have to make when you're riding a horse-drawn carriage.
Right. You should know going into it. Yeah. That there's a little bit of a risk involved in that.
Yeah. Now, again, I'm not saying that Disney's 100% right there because I do think that's a little design flaw in my opinion. And I think that's what David alludes to. That's one of the main reasons they got rid of the Conestoga wagons in the first place, is because they kept tipping over and they wanted to avoid lawsuits. The interesting thing, one of the points I want to bring up with him is what happened to DCA. Basically, he's alluding that the lawyers got a hold of DCA and really dumbed it down, a.k.a. Bugs Land.
Yes.
So
Well, that's true.
See?
even Caleb knows.
I'm willing to bet that we agree on everything. And I'm not sure what that says about Caleb, but really what that says about
I'm
me.
not sure what that says about you. Actually, I'm pretty sure I know what that says
Yeah,
about
that's
you.
true. That is true.
Makes you very smart.
You're a
Thank you.
It makes you very smart. But before we get into any of that, I do want to tell you guys, go find us on iTunes and rate us. I was listening to another podcast, and apparently they value iTunes ratings. So who knows? I don't really know. But just do me a favor. Just go over there. Even if you don't use iTunes, just go rate if you can. I don't know how that works. We're also all over social media. Follow us everywhere except Snapchat. I don't know what that is. I haven't figured it out. I don't want to face swap. So actually, that's not true. I love
No,
it.
I want. Everybody wants to face swap.
Terrence and I face swapped, and I think I put
no.
that on our Instagram account or something like that.
It went somewhere, but it was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was a little bit of amazing, that's for sure.
It was a lot of
Sounds
amazing.
horrible.
No, it was
You
amazing.
did you not see it?
I'm looking it up right now.
No. Okay,
it's
good.
It is
Oh, and
fantastic.
in regards to Snapchat, just
Look it up.
don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. If you want to send feedback to the show, send it to Taryn. Any compliments goes to Terrence, and you can say hi
Hi.
to Bev.
I was looking it up. Sorry.
at earsup-podcast.com. Anything else goes to me. I'm Jason. Don't forget we have a blog with some Disney info off and on. Who knows? If you want to support us, you can do that via shopping through our Amazon link. It's just like doing your own Amazon shopping, but we get a little referral fee from Amazon. That's really nice. It definitely helps us running the shows, and that's cool. You can also sign up to be a reoccurring donor. We have quite a few. Not quite a few. I don't want to say like we have 50,000, but
We're making money. No, not really.
my Tesla's charging, so I only have about 20 minutes to do the show, and then my charge is up, and I got to drive. So, so you can either be a reoccurring donor for $5 a month or $1 a month. It doesn't matter. Or you can go. Did you find the picture?
Yeah.
Are you showing it? Let me see that thing again. That's pretty good.
Terrence, you look more like Hootie than you ever have in your whole life.
I'm sorry.
I know it's hard to
Yeah.
Look at that, Kayla. Look at that. Who looks goofier, me or Terrence?
Both.
Yeah, that's
Yes, it's pretty good.
good
It's
answer.
pretty good.
You can also buy some cov ears. Go to getcovears.com. It's really the only way to customize your Mickey Mouse ears on the go, man. Stop dragging those, bulky, homemade ears around, man. Get some cov ears, would you? We also have churro shirts. You can buy those on getcovers.com. If you want ladies' shirts and different sizes and different colors and stuff, you have to go to our TeePublic site. I know this is a lot of information, and I'm sorry about that, but that's fine. And search up Ears Up Podcast and TeePublic, and you'll find not only the churro shirts, but our brand new turkey leg shirts. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited about the turkey leg shirt. It looks, oddly enough, a lot like the churro shirt. It's a castle, but instead of churros, it's turkey legs. Mm-hmm. So you can rep both of your favorite foods.
Yes.
You know what's awesome about selling things is that
Taryn stinks. What's awesome about selling
is
things?
that no one's ever happy with what you have. They look at it and they go, you know what would be great is what have we gotten? We've gotten
Cov ears is
well.
people
I'm
love
not.
that.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking
okay.
about like with the turkey leg shirt.
I've been told Dole Whips.
Dole
You have
Whips.
to do a Dole Whip shirt. Yeah.
I was told something else too,
chimichangas?
but was that you?
I've never had it.
I was like, I don't even understand that one.
You've never heard of churros or turkey
I heard
legs?
of this stuff, but not on the t-shirts.
Not
Not
on
on
t-shirts.
t-shirt?
See his t-shirt right there?
That's a churro shirt.
It's like the
best thing in
the
the world.
Disneyland castle made out of churros. Caleb, isn't that the best thing ever?
That would be called Churro Land then.
It should be called Churro Land.
Get rid of Bugs Land. Churro Land. Boom. Also known as diabetes.
It would then
Diabetes
become
line.
Bugs Land.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It would.
It'd be
They don't have to change the name.
They don't. The designer who helped us out on the churro and
Love
the turkey
it.
legs, her name is Lulu, and she's on TeePublic too. You can search Lulu Gumshoe, or if you don't know how to spell that, because I sure don't, search Beer Me, and her shirt is a little beer bottle slumped over, and it's really cute.
I had to move my beer. I was being told that it looked like Caleb was trying to drink a beer, so I had to move it out from in front of him. Sorry, everybody on my stream.
Caleb's
Sorry,
like,
Caleb, you weren't fast enough.
Caleb's like, whatever. I got a flask back here. Taryn, do we have feedback?
Yes.
All right, go for it.
Okay. I'm so excited about this one, and this one's for you, Jason.
Okay.
First, this is from Edward. First and foremost, I love the podcast. My girlfriend is a huge Disney fan. We go multiple times a year for races and annual pass holder events, and just for funsies as well. Cut to the chase.
For funsies.
We will be at Disneyland for Dapper Day. I plan on popping the question while we are there, and while we will already be dressed up, so win-win for photo ops, the question becomes where. I figured the castle is the best choice, with the Lily Bell train being down. Her favorite character is Donald/Ariel, so maybe seeking them out, or...
Dariel.
Yeah, Dariel.
Dariel.
Okay.
He's a new one, yeah.
Yeah. Burial.
So maybe seeking them out, or on...
Sorry. My Donald impression.
That was really bad.
It happens.
Or on maybe the aerial ride. Any insight or pro tips would be great. Thank you all in advance. P.S. to Jason, go Blackhawks.
Yeah, see?
Sharks! It goes for sharks.
Right? The whole entire room pretty much is wearing Sharks gear.
Wow.
And I wrote back to him. I was like, "Look, if I cared anymore, I would say I would school you, but I can't. I can't keep getting my heart broken. Right? It's just come on, Jerry. You know what I'm talking about. This is the year. You think so?
That's what they said 2 years ago.
All right. 2.
That's true. It's like, what, 93?
No, it's fine. I'm rooting. Look, I don't wish any ill will to anybody, but the Blackhawks are formidable. Anyways,
I like the idea of in the under the sea area of the aerial ride. That's cute.
Yeah.
The music.
I think it depends on what he really wants to get out of it. Like, if they want photo ops, something like that, the castle.
Because Jason did a really good job surprising me and getting it all photographed without me realizing that's why we were there.
yeah.
I
thought that was cool.
I mean, I think that you can, like Terrence is saying, you can go two ways about it. You can go, you can do a private thing and just, have a moment between you guys, which is sappy and whatever, and that's what you go for. That's fine.
It's always going to be sappy.
That's true. Or
Not always.
Or you can do it like in front of a character, like with a character maybe, or like go out, like saddle up to the character handler.
Right.
And say, hey, I'm going to propose.
That'd be good.
So can you work with the character?
What
or
if
whatever?
Donald proposes to her?
That'd be great, right?
And then
She'd probably pick Donald.
in the face.
Yeah, she's-
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a risk.
Yeah. It's a
super
but it'd be a
risk.
pretty good photo op.
And there's also the PhotoPass photographers there,
Right.
and so I think and if you want people if you want to have those pictures, then do it in front of wherever a PhotoPass person is.
Because also they take
Guys,
better pictures than
give
your...
me a remind of something.
What's that?
To remind you of something?
Yes.
Did you propose?
No.
Okay.
No.
Girls have
I wa-
cooties at this point, right?
I went to the Lincoln's
The
White House show, and
Yeah.
then it wasn't ready yet because there was people watching it. So
Yeah.
we had to look at the TV, and the guy was talking about Tomorrowland, and he said that there were mermaids in the water, and there was real men going in the water to go to them.
That's true.
That is
yeah.
true.
Donald Duck was running.
That is true. Back in the day of the submarine ride, there were real mermaids in there, and
That was
dudes
part
used
of
to
it.
jump in there and try to holler at the mermaids.
That
yeah,
sounds not
for real.
creepy at all.
No.
That is creepy.
Super creepy.
Look at this
Caleb knows.
kid already knowing his
He knows
lore.
what's up.
He knows his history.
I will add this, that
Yeah.
at the different locations where you actually have the PhotoPass people, if you actually go up to them, to the handler itself, and just flash them a ring or something in your left hand while you're handing them the card, they will work with you and actually they'll take dummy photos and while they're saying, oh, we're trying to get the focus just right at the castle at night and so forth. And then all of a sudden they tell you, after about 3-4 flashes, then get down on one knee and then do it.
Right.
And then they'll just keep taking pictures.
That's cool.
If you do it once, you can go do it at any of the other ones.
Oh, that's
Been there,
true.
done that, and then she broke my heart. Oh, that's okay. I still like Disneyland.
I think one of the
Of
places.
course, someone would love Disneyland still.
That is true.
Right.
I think one of the places that gets overlooked is across from Ariel, right before you go to Ariel's Grotto, but overlooking the bay right there where World of Color is. Great pictures for that. Great backdrop as well. So that might be a good area.
Maybe
So-
Wheel of Terror in the background.
Yeah, but you're not on it.
Let's
so.
not forget they're going to be dressed up Dapper Day style too. So
Yeah.
that could play a factor in
Yeah.
where they do it.
Then it would be best. It would actually then be best to do it on Main Street with the Dapper Dans.
Oh,
You could do that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, pretty much. Anywhere.
Well,
it
here's
depends.
the
Again, it
thing.
depends on what you're looking for.
And here's the thing: you're going to be proposing to your girlfriend, and assuming she loves you and she's going to say yes, It doesn't matter.
Oh, you guys are reminding me of this YouTube video of these people pretending like some guy proposed at a girl. She said yes.
Yeah.
In the video, but she actually said no.
What?
So they go in the Haunted Mansion ride for the last ride. She's getting scared because she said one kid got a heart attack, blah, blah, blah. And then everything happened, and there was actual ghosts in there.
Yeah.
And when it was almost the end, the Hatbox Ghost came, and now I know that why they put the Hatbox Ghost back in the Haunted Mansion.
Why is that?
Because the Hatbox Ghost is really famous now.
He is really famous now.
Did you see it last time you went?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. That's some of the best
I
things.
do like the fastbacks. The fast pass ghost is, I think is what it's called.
the fast pass ghost.
Yeah. Anything else, Terrence? Turn?
No, that's it.
Okay, that's it.
I hope we helped you, Edward. And good luck.
Edward. Sorry, bro. I hope we did.
You'll be fine.
Send
man.
us photos
Yeah.
once you have them. I think that's real cute.
We're now going to get a good friend on the invalid phone number. What the heck is going on with my life?
Uh-oh.
I need to
Technology.
I need to call my friend here. We're going to talk to Matt Staley.
Actually, technology is really good.
Technology is good
Sometimes, dude.
until it works, man, and then it's the worst invention in the entire history of the
I'm
planet.
not
You mean
sure.
until it
I'm not
doesn't work?
sure.
Until it doesn't
You can
work.
play video games, look up on your phone.
Honestly,
He's not wrong.
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Really
too.
We're going to talk to Matt Staley, who is a figure finisher in the animation department of Disneyland, and Disneyland is having a pretty cool art challenge happening, which is usually, I guess, behind the scenes, but this year they decided to bring it out and put it into DCA in the Redwood Trail area. Matt, are you with us?
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well.
Nice. You sound well. It's good to hear you.
Yeah, you too. How's it going, everyone?
It's going well, man.
Everyone in the land, hello.
Hello.
So
Yeah.
okay, I can't even pronounce it because it seems like the name is weird, but it's the Environmentality Art Challenge voting, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Environment.
backstage we have all kinds of fantastic words like environmentality.
I suppose you do. So tell me about this art challenge.
It was something that, we have a environmental activity center, the EAC, like in Turtle Talk and Crush and Nemo and all that, where they handle a lot of the materials that we get rid of at the park, anything from, recyclables like you'd have at home up to really nice stainless steel seating and all kinds of bearings that go into the ride vehicles and stuff like that. So the park has always done quite a bit to, recycle that stuff or send it on to people who can use it. So this is just kind of a way of having fun and highlighting, what we could do with some of that refuse rather than even just recycling it, making it into something cool that people could appreciate.
That's awesome. So what did you guys do? You broke out into teams or something, it looks like?
Yeah, different departments, that took an interest, formed teams, and I worked with the animation department at the park, and so we kind of decided to do something that was sort of character-driven and had not animation to it, but kind of a cool action-packed pose. We formed our team before we really knew what we wanted to do, and one day we were all sitting at someone's retirement party, actually, and everybody had a Coke in their hand, and I said to one of the other guys on the team, I said, what if we did something that was just all clad in, like, aluminum can material? And I had been watching Iron Man with my kids, so we were like, hey, Iron Man, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And so we wound up making this 3-foot-high Iron Man figure who's kind of flying up out of a pile of trash and becoming this, environmentality warrior, to fly up and save the day.
Yeah,
Like that.
what's the title of it? Because I thought it was pretty clever.
Oh, yeah, the title of our piece is Environ-Man. Little combo there, see? Uh-huh.
And flipping through some of the photos you sent.
Yeah, this is what we're doing backstage, by the way. While you guys are all out there having fun, we're finding ways to have fun ourselves. So coming up with things like Environment.
Environment.
Awesome.
Some of these photos some of the photos you shot over are pretty cool. There's We Are All Groot.
Oh, I love Groot.
Yeah, there's a good Groot one that was done by there's a department called Property Control, so that when things are gotten rid of that the park doesn't have a need for anymore, but they still have some value to them, they'll do auctions, or sometimes they auction them off for charity or give them away to different groups. The Property Control people are really cool, and they did that cool Groot piece out of cardboard and stuff like that. It's really cool.
I like it. I think it's pretty cool. So what's the deal here? How can we vote for this stuff?
Well, yeah, this is what's kind of fun and why I reached out to you guys, because typically, if we do these backstage things, the public never sees any of it. But in this case, next week, they're going to put these art pieces, the last 10 of them. There were actually 60 entries in the beginning, and they've kind of whittled them down. So now there's 10 left, and they're all going into DCA, California Adventure, next week. And they'll be on display in the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail. That's like that area across from the Russian River store, where there's like lots of ropes courses and little obstacle courses. They're going to be back in there, and guests are going to be able to see them and even vote on them.
Oh, cool!
Because now that we're down, now that we're down to the last 10, we're voting among the cast, but also for the first time, guests are going to be able to vote. So that's kind of a cool opportunity for you guys to get in on this if you want to.
I like that, you're kind of bringing this stuff to the forefront and letting us, see your talents besides just making everything in Disneyland happen. That's not enough. We need to see what you do when you don't have time.
Yeah, and a funny thing about it, several of us in our shop were talking, because a lot of us before we worked for Disneyland were model makers, or some of us worked in the movies and things like that. And all of us kind of got into it by making stuff at home out of the junk that was around us, or taking toys apart and trying to put them back together into something else. We're all kind of laughing like, I remember doing this as a kid, And so it is kind of a fun thing for people to see, and maybe a window into, how you can do what we do, at home with what's around you, maybe.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's super creative, obvious. I mean, it's Disney, so yes, of course it's creative, but that's really cool.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, there's 10 really cool pieces. Come out and see them if you're in the area. They'll be there from, I know the 21st is the last day, 21st of this month, and I think that they will go over there on Monday. So you'll have, 4 days to check them out. So
okay.
It's a small window, but I wanted to let you guys know.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate it, man. And if we were in town, I would definitely go and vote for the Groot one.
Yeah, because
okay, you are a jerk.
When he dances,
He does
the
dance.
movie, like in the end,
Caleb loves the Groot.
It's all
Yes,
about
it does.
Enviroman
and then he looks, and then
or whatever.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I have a bias, but
Just
please
Rose.
come out and vote for whatever you think, whatever you like.
Yeah. Matt, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you guys again soon.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on and talk about your actual job, too.
Yeah, and the history of animatronics, maybe we could do something like that, a little show about that. So
That'd
there's a
be
lot of
That'd be
fun stuff.
great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Maybe in studio. It's
Cool.
not that far of a drive, like, 6 hours?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely due for some vacation.
We've got extra
Absolutely.
rooms.
Absolutely. All right, buddy, we're going to let you
All right.
split. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, friend. All right, cool. That was awesome. I'm glad
Good
we got
dude.
to talk to him. Yeah, that's a cool thing, man. Making some garbage, making some garbage
I'm
art.
voting for Iron Man.
You think you're going to vote for Iron Man?
Yeah, because it looks like he's actually flying out of the city.
It looks good.
looks
I'll post
amazing.
a photo of it on our page or whatever. All right, Caleb, we're going to talk to you right now, man. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I think you were born ready for this.
Yeah.
I'm not that.
You weren't born
true.
ready? No, it's not true. Well, I don't know about that. Okay,
I was
so
born ready to sing, though.
What?
well, he was born ready. What?
To sing.
To sing? Are you a singer?
Well, kind of.
Kind of.
Is this your guys' little retirement plan right here? Man, this is awesome. You guys super
Yeah.
talented.
What's your favorite song to sing? Here, do me a favor. Get closer
Yeah,
to
get a
that
little
mic.
bit
Maybe like Stitches.
Stitches?
Stitches?
What is that?
Shawn Mendes.
Shawn Mendes?
We're not very hip.
No.
Is that like a? It's not a Disney song.
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. I don't really know
That
much
would explain why we
beyond.
don't know it.
Yeah, exactly.
All
So
my
you
all my
haven't
music's
been
on
on the
8-track.
radio for real songs?
No, I'm not that
songs?
cool. No, I'm not that cool, man.
It's okay.
It's all right. I appreciate
You know
that.
a lot about Disneyland, so.
Well, I know a little bit
you
for
can
sure.
tell us a lot about him, Mickey's everywhere. So.
I'll try. I'll try. But let's talk to you real fast, Caleb. So, like I said before, man, I just want to get in your head. What do you like about Disneyland? Tell me why you are so jazzed to go to Disneyland. What's your favorite thing about Disneyland?
Everyone says the happiest place is on earth is Disneyland.
Yeah.
I can agree because Tomorrowland is really cool.
Okay.
And I like what they did for Stars Land for Tomorrowland because Hyperspace Mountain's really crazy.
Okay, so you like Tomorrowland. That's your favorite spot?
Yeah.
Is it because of Hyperspace Mountain?
Yeah, and also Star Tours, Finding Nemo.
Okay, you like
All of
Finding Nemo.
The rides. Also, I like what they did with Marvel characters and also Star Wars characters.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. That's a good solid chunk of area. I thought you may have one thing, but it sounds like you have a lot of love
Really
to give
entire.
across the park, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't. It's hard to pick one thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you go to the park and you go, all right, folks, we're going to Disneyland. I have to go. Where do you go? I have to go blank. Your first place to go.
Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion.
That's a good first ride.
My
Mine too,
dad
man.
loves Haunted Mansion.
It's the best.
Good.
It's kind of the best
It's
ride.
a good ride.
I
Yeah.
kind of close my eyes on the parts when the monsters jump up like.
Oh, in the attic scene?
Yeah.
No, I think in the
On
graveyard.
scene, I mean,
graveyard,
yeah,
yeah.
the graveyard
Yeah.
scene, yeah.
It freaks me out.
It does? It freaks you out? You can't handle it? Do you think they're going to come into the doom buggy? Or is it just the motion? Like you're not expecting it and it gets you?
Sometimes I feel like I'm gonna sweat and puke.
Because you're so scared?
Yes.
Yeah. That happens though. I mean that's what that ride's supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's why I think we like Disneyland because it does all this stuff and it's supposed to make you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it does a good job. Can you imagine if you just rode it and you're like, this is really boring?
True.
That would be boring, right? You wouldn't want to go
Yeah.
anymore.
Also, when the ride breaks down, it's actually really, really scarier.
Right, because now you don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah. I like it. I like it when the ride breaks down because of that, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so you're like, ooh, anything could happen.
I have a question.
Don't do the evil laugh.
I have a question. What's your,
I'm like weak, but I can actually beat up my people because once I knocked out my brother.
hey, be careful, though, because one day he might be bigger than you.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just saying, man. Just be careful.
Might be bigger like this.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
A lot.
Throwing
I'm telling you,
shade,
it
man.
happens.
It
I'm
happens.
telling you, it happens.
What's
Sometimes
your
you
question?
What's your favorite thing to eat in the park?
Blue Bayou.
The Blue Bayou?
Oh.
You guys got...
Fancy.
Man,
That's
I'm 36 and I
what
can't even
was
afford
gonna
to
say.
eat there.
And
Man,
do the same motion.
Blue Bayou. Not bad. That's not bad at
Blue
all.
Bayou's pretty good. Do you try to get close to the water?
I know.
No? Where do you sit? Where do you like to sit in the Blue Bayou? What's Caleb's spot?
I think whatever see
Just
it
anything.
is it's the best spot.
You're
ever.
just there for the environment. You're just there to hang out. That's cool. I like that. Because some people are truly picky where I can't go to the Blue Bayou unless I sit
By the water.
that's me. I need to be at the water. That's like, to me there's one spot.
Right.
Because if you do your reservation and you don't get to do it, it's canceled. Give me back my money back.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I would
Totally.
say.
Totally. So let's say you're done with the park. Okay, you're about to leave. Your family's about to leave, and you're like, no, I got to do one more ride.
Yeah.
What's the ride that you want to do? The very last ride that you want to do in the park?
Oh, it's my mom and dad's choice, and
Yeah.
when we did it with our cousin, they said the screaming, and I had to do it.
Oh, California
Over
Screaming.
Screaming?
I went on it and I was crying so bad, and then I got off it. The cast members waited with me, and I got a stroller pass.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Work
Then
that
I
system.
got on it with my dad, and it was actually awesome.
Okay.
When you
ride.
look at it, it looks very scary, but when you go on it, it's not that bad.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I
good
agree. I agree. And
It
that's
feels
a
like
lot of
Thunder
things.
Mountain and also Splash Mountain.
You like those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things in life,
it's like
Caleb.
put together with those two things, it makes screaming.
Yeah, I agree.
What about Tower of Terror? Have you done that one yet?
Stop it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
No.
only did that once. Wait, are you scared? Because you
Yeah, I'm totally scared. I have no reservations about admitting that. That ride freaks me out.
It's just a door getting so away, and then
No.
then you get electrocuted, and then you see the scary things, and you
No.
just go up,
Nope.
and then you drop
Sorry.
all the way down.
Sorry. Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Oh.
That's the ride.
Oh yeah, and also you spin around in
Yeah,
circles.
and there's ghosts. Hello.
Yeah, that's true.
No, there's no ghosts.
There's
just-
ghosts.
There's ghosts in the
There's
elevator.
No,
Bro,
there's
bro.
electric people because remember those.
Now he
So
sounds
I'm
like
not
me.
sure if I'm the one to have
Foreign
this.
people those foreign movie stars go in that hotel and then electric.
I don't know if I'm the one to have this talk with him, but when you get electrocuted, normally the ghost thing is what happens next, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Except when the electric comes, that ride makes you disappear.
Oh, that's true.
That's
That is
true.
And when you
I don't like
get
disappearing.
Transported.
electrocuted, you're still there, except you might die or not.
Right? Look at this, man. Deep thoughts, dude.
Deep
It all
thought.
Deep
makes
thought.
Might
perfect
just
sense
get
to me.
injured
Yeah.
if you live. You'll be happy you lived, but the bad thing is you broke your arm and legs.
That's true. But then you get stroller passes for life. So
Yes, there we
I
go.
think that works out. Your little brother here, Jordan, right? Jordan, do you
Yeah.
agree with what your older brother's saying? Yes. You do? You agree with everything?
Yeah.
Like you like
Finally,
Space,
you agree with me.
I know. There you go.
you like Space Mountain and you like all those rides?
Yes.
Are you as scared for Haunted Mansion too? No.
See?
He loves it like my dad.
Yeah.
A good ride.
It's a good ride,
Usually
man.
he acts like him. Actually, acts like mom, and I act like my dad, and I look like my mom, and he looks like my dad.
I can't see all your tattoos, Jordan, so that's good. They're covered up.
Yeah, I know.
No, he didn't get a tattoo.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Not,
yet.
Not yet.
until you're 14.
You gotta wait till 10.
Yes, exactly.
Not 10, not 10.
Not 10.
I'm about to turn 9, man.
There you go. You got 1 year. Start
It's
picking
like,
it
I'm
up.
not ready for this.
Find an artist. Go for it.
Yeah, it's not too early to start shopping. Well, Caleb, I appreciate you sharing your views on Disneyland with us, man. Oh, before we let you go, Bugs Land. Do you like it or do you love it?
Yeah.
See?
So he only likes it.
No, he went, eh.
He went,
Right.
eh.
That's a like.
And it's not even a like.
I gave him two choices, like or love.
Well,
And he said,
no.
eh.
You have to give me 3 because
Okay,
Okay.
like, love, or
Boring.
super love?
The like, love, or
No,
boring?
no. boring.
It's boring.
Boring?
Yes.
To an 8-year-old who they're
an
marketing it to.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Okay, maybe for a 1-year-old, that
Maybe.
person might like it, but
Yeah.
in a few years.
Jordan, what do you think?
No.
Bugs Land, yay or nay? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes?
Oh,
Okay.
come on, Jordan! You have to give up on me.
You guys almost agreed for like 5 minutes there.
That's good,
That's
though.
good. That's good for brothers.
That's good. All right, guys. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Jerry, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you
I
guys.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it. No problem.
Feel free to hang
Yeah,
out or
stick
whatever.
around. Stick around.
I'm going to get.
Actually, it was my uncle's idea.
Oh, it was? Oh, awesome.
He said that was a stupid idea, but it might be a good idea.
Might be a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Your father. You know him?
Grandpa.
Oh, sorry.
All right, now we're going to get David on the line, and David is the author of The People versus Disneyland. Dave, are you with us?
Actually, I think.
I am. Thank you so much for your patience.
Oh, yeah, no worries, man. No worries. I appreciate you taking the time to join us, man.
Sure.
So you've written, wow.
Starting us off good.
I
And I
talk,
mispronounced.
yeah, I talk professional like on internet. I don't know. So you've written several books on Disneyland, and this is your most recent one, correct?
Yes, The People versus Disneyland.
All right. I was really stoked to read this book. I got it, and it was like, it's like 200 or so pages. I'm like, that's kind of impressive. Even, for me, I don't really read a whole lot. I'm a millennial, I guess. I don't know. And I read it, and then I put it down, and I realized I was done. It's kind of one of those where it just pulls you through each paragraph.
Absolutely.
It was kind of interesting, man. I was like, wow, this is I'm really excited about this. This is exactly the thing that's right up my alley. So do me a favor, man, and just quickly recap you as a person. Ready, go.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Sorry.
Well, first of all, I'm going to ask if I have your permission to use that as an Amazon review.
Yes.
It's quote, kind of interesting.
Yes, please do. You're very welcome.
Yeah, I've been writing and researching about Disney since the late 80s. First book was called Mouse Tales, a behind-the-ears look at Disneyland. Came out in 1994 and has been, I suspect, the best-selling non-Disney published Disney book ever written. It's now in its 20th printing and was sort of the first behind-the-scenes look at a Disney theme park, not sanitized by the company themselves. And then I came out with a sequel to that, a book about behind the scenes of Disney animation movies called The Mouse Under Glass, the inside story of Walt Disney World in Florida called Realityland, and this new book, The People versus Disneyland, is my first entirely new book about Disneyland that I've written in 15 years.
Wow.
So I went back to sort of update, okay, what's been going on, what's the biggest trend and changes that have happened over the last 15 years at Disneyland. And time and again, I look, all these changes, good, bad, and questionable, all related to lawsuits or fear of impending lawsuits. All the big changes, all of them have to do with legal liability.
And, and that's what, look, we're on the other side of this, right? So we're just part of the public, and, we get not fed, but, we get reasons for changes and stuff because, we're focused on safety. The park is focused on your safety, and so we've decided to make these changes. And, from the outside looking in, you go, oh, hey, that's really great. I'm glad that the company is looking out for me, right? Like, I'm number one. But reading your book, it was very clear, good, bad, or otherwise, that that's not the case. And there were a lot of lawsuits even from the get-go. Something like 3 days after the park was open, they had their first lawsuit.
Right, yeah. The park was its third day of operation back in 1955, and it was on what would become the most lawsuit-generating ride in the park, which was the Autopia car ride.
Yeah.
And it's... Well, it still generates its fair share of lawsuits because people just can't. They think it's a bumper car ride. And you just gotta ram that person in front of you, even though they do their best to tell you not to.
Yeah.
But it was much more freewheeling when it first opened. There was no. The track was twice as wide as it is now.
Oh wow!
With these big curbs on the side and no rail in the middle to hold you there. Because Walt's idea was, well, we're trying to teach the kids. Freeway safety, so they've got to be able to, make some mistakes.
As
to
they
learn
bang
from
into
the
the
mistakes.
walls. Yeah.
They've got to be able to pass each other, and, we want to be able to have the fun of racing, not realizing that would mean, kids would run off the track over the curb and be, driving around the submarine dock, or that they make U-turns and start tearing down the opposite direction. So, it got a little out of hand before they made some serious restrictions. And as well, the cars, they were just sort of making up the components as they went along. Disney'd never done any guest-related business before, so it had no idea how do you create a indestructible car that will require it. And as a result, all the metal parts. One of the big sponsors was the Kaiser Aluminum Company. So almost all the parts that went into the Autopia were Kaiser Aluminum, which meant they completely crumpled, when you hit a curb, and these little faces would from the drivers would smash into the aluminum steering wheel, and so there were all these missing teeth and bloody faces, and that happened to a little, I think she was an 8 or 10-year-old girl on day 3, and they sued, saying that this was a dangerous vehicle with a dangerous track, and Disney's lawyer brought it to court and showed, oh, wait, how'd you get hurt? By you driving to the curb? Did we drive you into the curb? No, you drove into the curb, and you only got hurt because you turned off the track and smashed into the curb. And Disney won. And it was just the first of of an incredible winning streak of them winning like 94, 96% of their cases.
And so before we get too far into it, you state in your book that you are not a lawyer.
Not even close.
You're just familiar with these cases. You have some experience digging into these. You've helped out in a law firm, but you are not in any way a lawyer. But you still get solicited for law advice, which I think is funny.
Yeah, which is weird because I think a lot of folks who have a problem, it's mostly either people who have had a bad experience of Disneyland. You know, they trip and fall down, or they get, you know, they're on a attraction and the cars bump, and they're looking, is this a good idea? Should I sue? And they realize that it's a subject they've written about and that seemingly should know something about, but I can't really say, you know, give them actual legal advice, but I can certainly speak to, you know, what their odds might be, what their success might be, which is usually very poor. And as well, I'll get a lot of calls from attorneys who are suing Disneyland or thinking about suing Disneyland, mostly for past history. Okay, here's my case. You know, my client was on the Autopia and such happened. Anything similar to this, that figuring if there's a pattern of these type of accidents, that helps them in court. And I'm usually able to help those as well, tell them, you know, yeah, there's been a lot of things similar to this, and Disney's never taken care of it, or they have, or, you know, give them a little direction as far as if this is a good idea to take this case.
Okay, so I have a question real quick, David. So, and this is freshly from our chat room. So you're doing research on this. Are you a Disneyland lover as well?
I am. Yes, a Disneyland lover. I you know, but I'm not one of those blind, and not that there's anything wrong with that. Not one of those guys who Disneyland can do no wrong and it's perfect and it's wonderful. But I'm, you know, I do love Disneyland. I've been going there since I was a small boy, and get out there as often as I can. I don't like a lot of the changes, and some I do. But you know, I just enjoy being there, and I enjoy it being the best, safest, most fun, you know, wonderful place it can be. And it's gotten, because of lawsuits, better and worse in those respects.
So reading some of these things that have happened, it doesn't taint your view on the park, or doesn't make you apprehensive to get on certain rides?
No, because it's you know, it's sort of the opposite, in the sense that the more you know, these little machinations happen, by, you know, the more changes, subtle changes happen, the more interesting it becomes to me, you know, to try and catch these little changes that they make to ward against, you know, problems that they've had, or imagine problems that they could have. I know there was a couple of years ago, there used to be benches along the wall that runs on the side of the drawbridge in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle, and people would you know, sit on the benches, obviously, or they would stand on these stone benches, which are actually, you know, part of the alcoves in the wall that had been there since 1955. And people had been, you know, standing and posing for pictures on these and sitting. And in fact, even when the wall was shorter, they'd even sit on the wall, you know, without any problem ever happening. But what happened a couple of years ago is a kid stood up on one of these benches, fell over into the bushes on the other side, and he was fine. He was okay. He didn't fall in the moat. You know, I don't even know if he got wet at all. It was mostly just in the bushes, and Mom fished him out, and, you know, I'm sure gave him a stern talking to for standing up on the bench. But Disney heard about this, and they're like, uh-oh, you know, what happens if they stand up on one of the bench and fall over, you know, into where there's water, and then somebody drowns, and da-da-da-da. So without anybody ever actually getting hurt, they went in the middle of the night and jackhammered out all these 50, 60-year-old benches, and they're gone.
From one incident.
They've never hurt anybody before, and they're disappeared.
But not even just one incident, but one incident that wasn't even the incident they were afraid of.
Right.
That's crazy.
Because they're trying to think like 3 steps ahead now. I mean, they fixed all that. Before, in the early years of Disneyland, they would, while safety was a top priority, they'd balance it out with, okay, what's best for the show? Yeah, there's potential problem here with, you know, like on Alice in Wonderland, there was no a lip to the bottom of the ride vehicle, unlike on, you know, the mine train on the Snow White ride, or on the Mr. Toad cars, where there's a little lip where you walk in and out and keep your feet inside. On the Alice in Wonderland attraction vehicles, there was no lip. It was a different, you know, configuration of the how you entered and exited the caterpillar. So that meant nothing to trip over, but as well, it kept people, it didn't keep people's feet inside the vehicle, and often people would stick their foot out and drag it along. And so that was the problem for 50 years with Alice in Wonderland, is all these broken legs and smashed feet of people dragging their feet. And Disney knew, okay, once every few months somebody's going to hurt their foot, but, overall it's pretty safe. That thing doesn't happen anymore. They created a whole new sort of foot protective mechanism on the bar that lowers over to protect feet. Now they solved all the problems, and they're looking ahead to say, okay, what could ever possibly in the future be a problem, and solve that before it even happens.
Well, and so, I mean, it's got to be really hard from Disney's standpoint, and I definitely don't want to make this show about how terrible Disney is and whatever, but I do think it shows, I don't want to say a lack of forethought, because, like you said, this is something the company's never done before, and I think nobody's really ever done it on this kind of level of detail and this scale before that Disney wanted to do. So they kind of went into it blindly and learned, much like building the park itself, they learned as they went. And what's interesting to me now is people say, oh, now we're in a very litigious society. Everyone wants to sue. Everyone's sue happy. But in reading your book, even not in the 50s or 60s, people wouldn't sue. They got in an accident and they shook hands and everything's fine. But
Yep.
You detail quite a few cases that didn't happen, that people were still suing. So I don't know if it's just our society now. Maybe it happens. It's more often. But even with the lack of current safety standards, there were still accidents, but those were kind of infrequent. It sounded like.
Right. Well, it's a different type of accident, and it was a different type of mindset. While Disney's always, as I said, been safety obsessed, they didn't want to make their safety obsessiveness distracting to their magic, to the show in the first 30 or 40 years, because they thought, when you come to Disneyland, we don't want you to think there's a possibility you can kill yourself. We want you to come to Disneyland and have that be the farthest thing from your mind. Don't think about safety. Let us be the ones to think about safety. So that, like, when Space Mountain first opened up in Walt Disney World, was the first place it opened at the Magic Kingdom, and there were no warning signs anywhere. There wasn't even a sign that said it was a roller coaster. I mean, here's the most dangerous attraction they've ever built, and it's like, come on in for a fun, blast off with us to outer space, and dance with the stars, and the little old 90-year-old ladies would go, oh, this is probably like Small World that goes to space. And you get 90-year-old people on Space Mountain. It was a lot of people got hurt because they didn't want people to know there was a chance they could get hurt, and they figured, okay, we'll just keep tweaking as things go wrong. We'll keep tweaking it, and then about 15 years ago, after a number of high-profile accidents, they decided, you know what, we've got to switch this. We actually have to admit, yes, people, you can, if you don't be careful, you can get hurt. You have to help us out here, and pay attention and keep your hands and arms in the vehicle at all times, and in 6 different languages, and the diagrams of how you should sit, and whatever, just constant reminders to please help us out, protecting you from yourself.
Right, and of course that's what we need, and it's very clear. And I say that a little tongue in cheek, but some of these people, it seems like that you've detailed in the book, need that kind of looking out for, or they're just looking for a quick payday. And I couldn't determine one with the other, because you were like, okay, this person fell, but nobody was around to be a witness, and there were no bruises or whatever. So the case was eventually dropped. And are these actually, do you think some of them are legit cases that Disney happens to get off on technicalities, or there's actually people that are just trying to slip and fall to get paid because they think Disneyland has a bunch of cash?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, certainly, and there's no way to get inside the head of some of these people to figure out, okay, how many of these are setups. And there's certainly, in the book, I do, there are a number of them where they were proven in court this accident could not have happened the way you described it. So there were a number that I show that were fake. Or at least were pretended to be made worse than they actually were, because they couldn't have happened as the charge went. As far as all the others, you don't know how many of them. I'm sure some of them were faked, we'll say, but a lot of them Disney got off not because they were faked, but they were able to show that it was the person's own fault, especially where somebody trips over a curb. I mean, that's the most common injury at Disneyland is the slip and fall when somebody when walking and trips over a trolley track or the curb or their own feet or a planter or entering and exiting an attraction vehicle. And most of the time, not all, but most of the time, that's just there's nothing Disney could have done about that. There's no inherently dangerous situation to a curb that's next to a sidewalk that's next to a street. I mean, that's fairly common in the real world.
That's user error.
So they should have. There's nothing new and magical to a curb.
Not in Disneyland, though. In Disneyland, everything's magical.
Yeah, that's true.
It did seem like a lot of those slip and falls or trips essentially were kind of dismissed because essentially there were either places that these people shouldn't have been, and some of them, you know what I mean, like in planter boxes or trying to get off rides or something like that. Is that common across the themes of all the suits that you've seen? Like, I don't know if you can answer this, but what's the percentage, do you think, maybe, of how many people are straying from the path and getting hurt and then trying to sue? It seems like it's a no-brainer.
I don't know that that's a huge. I know what you're asking. I don't have the tally handy. I'm sure I could figure that out with hours of research. I'll get started on shortly.
Please do.
But that does happen where the people are walking or standing or doing something they're not supposed to, and usually the ones Disney will fight are the ones that are a curb or the street or where it's demonstrably proven that there's no hazard, that they did nothing wrong, and the condition was safe. There wasn't, if somebody tripped on a frozen banana that had fallen, that frozen banana must have just fallen within the last 2 minutes, because we can prove that there was a sweeper there 5 minutes ago who would have swept it up if it was there. And there's, obviously we can't be following around every man with a kid with a frozen banana to make sure he doesn't drop it. As far as on slipping and falling, entering or exiting a attraction vehicle, one complicating factor in that is, did the employee make that vehicle move too fast or too slow? Did he before the person fully got off of the vehicle on Mr. Toad, did they hit the button to advance the car, and so the car took off before the person was fully in or fully out?
Yeah.
And that could put Disney at a little fault there if they sent that vehicle moving before the person had a chance to get off or to get on and get themselves seated.
God, that'd be scary.
Yeah.
Speaking of the, we're talking a little bit about the modifications that the park has made as a result of accidents, like the kid falling into the bushes from the moat. In your book, you detail out essentially the kind of demise of Tom Sawyer Island because of a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it, and it hurts. They've done the same thing, completely neutered Toontown, but it's not, to me, as bad as Tom Sawyer's Island, because Tom Sawyer's Island, the whole point of it used to be to sprain your ankle. I mean, when I was a kid, and you go to Tom Sawyer's Island, it was like run around, go crazy. I mean, when it first opened, there were no paths. You just ran into the bushes, and you literally, they wanted you to climb on the rocks, climb up the tree. Go, this is the place. In the rest of Disneyland, not reached by raft. Right. You had to stand in line and play by the rules and wait your turn and follow this path and sit down at a particular time, and the ride would last 90 seconds, and then you'd get off and you'd walk to the next line. There were no lines on Tom Sawyer's Island. There was a merry-go-round made out of rocks. There was a teeter-totter made out of logs. And I mean, it was just
sounds awesome.
A giant fort. Yeah, it was make believe, and it was before cell phones and video games, and you could just run, and it was the place where an 8-year-old boy in particular and would just run and go crazy. And every once in a while they'd trip because they're off the path, or they'd slip off a rock and they'd sprain their ankle.
Yeah.
And the mom would go, "Come on, be careful. What's wrong with you, Johnny?" And whack them in the back of the head, and
Right.
go to first aid and patch them up, and they knew it was their own fault for, slipping or falling or whatever they did. But, as we've seen, Disney, some of them increasingly started blaming Disney for, well, there's no path if you're going to have us run where there's loose, pebbles. And, so Disney slowly started doing little tweaks, creating paths, creating a line of shrubs along the perimeter of the island so people don't actually fall off the island into the water. I mean, well, you could literally do that because the island just, rose out of the water. There was no fence or anything around it. So, I mean, you could quite easily in its first few years, find yourself wet on Tom Sawyer's Island. So they did little stuff like that, but it retained its heart of still being a place where you could go a little crazy. And then as they started getting rid of some of the amusements there, such as the merry-go-round, because it has no seatbelts, or the teeter-totter because you can fall off, so some of these things started to disappear. And then they finally realized, you know what, we got to basically take away all spontaneity. We've got to tell the kids how to play. And that's when they started putting on all the pirate nonsense that they've got on now, which is basically you stand in line and you wait to, pump a bilge thing to make a skeleton come out of the water or something, which may be fun, but it's, the antithesis of what Tom Sawyer's Island is supposed to be. It's all has become organized, Disney approved, wait in line fun, as opposed to make believe, make up your own game. And there's none of that left on Tom Sawyer's Island or anywhere in Disneyland.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like from a legal standpoint, it makes total sense. But but as you say, from an entertainment standpoint, it's not fun. It's still, I guess, cool because you can still get on the island and run. But that's all you can do. You can run and you go up and maybe you look, talk through the little trombone shaped messenger thing or whatever and go hello down there, and then you're ready to go across on the raft again. Yeah, nobody wants to hang out.
Well, you can still go on the island and walk. I don't know if you can still go on the island and run.
Well, that's probably true.
I don't even think they allow you to do that anymore. They used to be able to run and just literally go crazy. I mean, as long as you weren't obviously doing something that was inherently dangerous. And now we've redefined what inherently dangerous is. Right. Now run is inherently dangerous.
Of course.
Climb is inherently dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that's not standing with your hands behind your back, basically, is inherently dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. Someone can get a scraped knee.
Have they put that foam stuff in now that's on every playground?
Oh, on Tom Sawyer Island or Pirate Island? Or
I'm sure there's spots with that. The whole island is not covered in that. When Tom Sawyer's Island first opened, the surface of it was crushed seashells. So, why they did that is, first of all, it looked kind of natural and cool. And second of all, when it rained, it made it less slippery, and muddy. But what happens is when you fall on crushed seashells, that's not a soft landing.
No, it's not.
So, I mean, it didn't take long to change that surface.
And it kind of shocks me that no one would go, what's going to hurt?
Right.
Seashells.
Is a palm into the seashells.
Yes.
Like, we may not want to do this.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's sometimes you learn trial and error, I guess.
Right. Another trial and error, I think, was the Conestoga wagons. And we've talked about that on the show. But essentially, they were a little too top-heavy and kept toppling over when it seems like that's the reason the park got rid of them, is because people were getting injured.
Yeah, well, what they had originally is they had what they called the Conestoga wagons, were like covered wagons, and those were just like basically giant wagons with coverings on them. So there was no problem with. Their only problem was it was kind of boring sitting in that wagon. But it was the actual stagecoaches, which were two-level, tiny little stagecoaches, which they let people sit on top and inside, and operated by a team of real live horses with a real live crusty cowboy behind the reins, who was a real character. They hired actual cowboys to do this thing because they were wranglers who had to handle these horses, and they'd lead them into the wilderness, crossing the desert past the cactus, and the horses could get temperamental, and when they took off, every once in a while. You know, they'd hear the fire, the whistle of the Mark Twain, or something else would spook them, or a kid would irk them, and they'd take off. And you know, these top-heavy stagecoaches were known to flip, and you know, every single time that somebody sued over a stagecoach lawsuit, Disney lost, because it was just, I mean, they had no excuse. Their only excuse was that, well, if you're getting on a stagecoach, you know, which is like an 1800s ride vehicle, they used to make them really poorly back in the 1800s, so you should be prepared to, you know, get hurt. It's basically their defense, which was
not good.
Yeah, well, and that seems to be the theme that they push for a few of these, like the horse-drawn carts, you know, down Main Street, and even the Jungle Cruise. Some of those lawsuits seem to mirror the wagon ones, where there's an expectation, a reasonable expectation that there's some movement and anything can happen, and you're kind of putting yourself at risk. And but it sounds like that defense didn't really work in the long term.
Well, no, and they'll still use that to a lesser degree,
okay.
Although it was certainly magnified on the stagecoach, because the stagecoach, they had nothing else. I mean, the people weren't doing anything wrong. They were just sitting there, you know, riding the ride with their hands folded on their lap, you know, ooh, that's pretty, and all of a sudden the horses take off and the stagecoach flips and they're, you know, upside down in cactus or something. I mean, they didn't do anything wrong, but on the, you know, if you're on the Jungle Cruise, perhaps, or something, and you slip entering, you know, you could say, well, you know, you slipped because the seat was a little wet, but, you know, you're on the boat, so you got to be careful because a boat seat is got to get wet.
Yes,
I mean, that's
risk,
part of being a boat. You know, that's a risk you're entering into.
Right.
So they'll still use that, but you know, obviously that was a worthless defense with the stagecoach.
Yeah, for sure.
I can understand in like 1955 that things happen and it's not widespread, but nowadays, like something happens and you know about it within 5 minutes on Facebook. So how in the world are we not hearing about all these suits that are being brought up against Disneyland nowadays?
Well, for one thing, there's not nearly as many, and I don't know if I cover that in the book, but that's a great point you've made, in that perhaps that's been a reason that Disney has gone 180 and changed how aggressive it is they are in making things ultra safe.
Right.
Is because, you know, before they could, you know, if somebody falls off a boat, you know, nobody's going to hear about it, but now, you know, we'll know immediately.
Yeah.
So that may have been influenced. They're changing their opinion.
So what exactly? This is going to sound like a strange question, but
what shoe size are you?
No, but something something legitimate happens. Like, I'm thinking about stuff that's happened on. It's a clean show, so I don't want to be too graphic about it. But there's been things that have happened on Big Thunder, where it's something that's horrible. And
we're getting to that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what do they do with the witnesses? Like, how do they make sure that
how do they make them go away?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the answer to your first question is size 10. The answer to the second question about witnesses and cases, particularly like Big Thunder. Big Thunder is a little trickier because that was such a huge, high-profile case. And if anybody doesn't remember, back in about 2003, maintenance at Disneyland was not as sharp as it had been, and as it once again has become. They sort of cut corners and got a little lazy. Some things were not maintained properly, and one of the vehicles basically fell apart in the middle of a run. And as the vehicle came apart and entered one of the tunnels, it sort of folded in half. The top half hit the part of the tunnel and smashed back into some of the guests, and there were a lot of injuries, including one fatality.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So.
Yikes.
So what was the question?
So you
we're still caught up in that story. I can't remember why we're
you not only have a car full of people who are on there who are the victims, but you have people who witness what happens. How does Disney make them go away? How How in the
Right,
world do you
right.
keep a park functioning when you just had a fatality within the confines of the park that was
Exactly.
witnessed?
Well, in the case of Big Thunder, most of the primary witnesses were those who were on the train in question, the
Right.
18 or so people who were on the train, and almost every single one of those sued. So I mean, they were sort of witnesses for each other, and almost all of them got the same lawyer. So
Right. Okay.
That's smart.
you know, there was nothing Disney could do to protect themselves in that case because they were all communicating with each other. But what it will typically do in other cases is try and disperse the witnesses as quickly as possible. I don't know that's fair game, but what they'll do is something will happen and they'll seal off the area, and anybody, you know, people will go, oh, I saw what happened when the person fell down, and they'll go, oh, you know what, we've got this. Everybody saw it. We're covered. We're good. We're trying to give this person some space. Why don't you, go on with your day? Here's some fast passes, and they'll try and make the witnesses go away.
Right.
They want, particularly if they think there's a chance that it may be their fault. If they are sure it was not their fault, they might keep the person around. You know, did you see that person doing something they shouldn't have been doing? So they get pretty strategic in how they disperse or shield crowds from accidents, and legal liability is part of the reason why.
Totally. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. But it's hard for the victims, for sure. And that's the point, I guess.
Extremely so. I was talking to a girl who was thrown off a parking lot tram, and she said, her family, there were people who saw it, and yes, I saw you get thrown off. I know you weren't standing up or doing anything wrong, but when she went to find the people, they were all gone. And she assumes that Disney had sent them away. Oh, it's all good. It's all we got it. Paramedics are coming. Don't worry.
Yeah, everything's taken care of, which on the surface sounds totally reasonable. Like, you don't want a large crowd. You don't want to draw attention to what happened, but at the same time, there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, more than one.
Right, for sure. So I want to get to a couple of incidences, which is Terrence already kind of started here, which is awesome, about things that happened in the park that led to some major changes to specific rides. One of them being the Big Thunder, but I think the first one, and I may be wrong, the first one I'm bringing up is the Space Mountain in about 2000, which is on page 106 of the book. And by the way, people, pick up the book. It's amazing.
It really is.
It's really awesome.
It's a good read.
Apparently, a wheel hub assembly broke off from one of the rockets in the middle of the ride. What happened?
It was. This was the time through the early 2000s. Actually, started in sort of mid to late 90s.
Okay.
Where the maintenance at Disneyland, they were trying to suck every penny out of the place they could, and Disney had been known for doing too much maintenance in a sense, sort of going above and beyond just to make sure there was no chance of anything ever happening. They would, they had overstaffed their maintenance department. They, did preventive maintenance to the extent that nobody else did it. If there was, if a part was supposed to last a year, they'd replace it after 9 months, even though it looked still brand new, just because they didn't want anything worn, anything possible to happen. They wanted basically every component of every attraction seeming like it was brand new.
That's what I want
on a daily basis.
Yeah, I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I like it too, but the only downside is it's really expensive. To have that much extra manpower, skilled, unionized labor, and pay for all those parts and all that time and all the charts, because they had elaborate preventive maintenance charts with they had to stick to. And so the new management came in and figured, this is ridiculous. I'm not at my house. I don't replace a light bulb before it burns out. I wait till it burns out. And that's basically what they did.
But I'm not paying you $100 to go to your house.
Yeah, no, that's right. So they started letting things intentionally fall apart. And when something would break, that's when he's sick. So back in 2000, in Space Mountain, it is exactly what happened. Is they basically left those parts and phones and vehicles all apart where they would start placing them, and not long after that, they realized, this is not going to work. Everything falls apart, and people get maimed. Down Lake Valley for like two and a half years. Gutted entire building. It was just empty Space Mountain, and basically built track for vehicles, new safety standards, and basically it was. You think that if the old Mountain, you're riding a brand new Space Mountain built from scratch, and not the old built from the 70s.
I want to read it. Right. I want to read a quick passage from the book on this incident, and this is an example of how the writing kind of pulls you along. And I think you did a stellar job. So, in 2000, midway through a ride, a wheel hub assembly broke off from one rocket, activating the emergency shutdown system and halting all cars. But the damaged rocket buckled, and its front wheels derailed. The sudden stop injured all 10 passengers, one couple most severely. The husband was propelled forward, and his jaw, shoulder, neck, head, and chest slammed into the seat in front of him. His wife's foot, and, kids, maybe you don't want to listen. His wife's foot became entangled in the wrecked rocket seat. Stranded in the dark, bleeding and suspended 40 feet in the air with the front end of the sled dangling over the edge of the track, she began screaming for help. For nearly 45 minutes, none arrived.
That is literally my worst nightmare.
Right. Totally. And so you go on to say that allegedly maintenance personnel came up and began repairing and welding the track before rescuing the passengers.
When was this?
2000.
2000.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. That to me, that's amazing, and that's I think kind of part of the point of the book is that the lawyers really have kind of taken over, and they want to make sure that they're not held accountable for anything, and they're going to repair that track, so they can't, so they can go, oh look, see, everything's fine. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that happened.
That's crazy to me. That's insane. The next one I wanted to talk about briefly is where did it go? Well, Terrence, we already talked about the Big Thunder case for sure. But to me, after the Big Thunder incident, it seemed like the law changed. Like there was a state law, I think, right? Wasn't there? That kind of happened.
Yeah. Well, it actually started about 5 years before the Big Thunder accident.
Okay.
It was the first big accident on the Columbia sailing ship.
That's another one I want to talk about for sure. Yeah.
This was the first wake-up call to the world that there's a bad side of what Disney's doing. What happened on Christmas Eve, 1998, where due to a variety, probably 10, 12 different factors, that unfortunately all came together at one moment, all related to money-saving cutbacks in training, in maintenance, in operations, in scheduling, in just everything. All these horrible factors came together at once, so that the wrong person was in at the wrong place at the wrong time. Somebody that didn't know what they were doing, was in charge of throwing the rope onto a cleat on the side of the ship to anchor it, thinking they were throwing it to try and stop the ship, and the rope's not going to stop the ship.
No.
so it yanked the cleat out, which was already worn from not being properly maintained. It yanked it out of the boat and shot it into the crowd, where it maimed a woman and hit her husband in the head and killed him.
Ugh.
And they were just waiting in line. The first time before everyone who'd ever been killed at Disneyland was, sort of where they shouldn't have been or doing something they shouldn't have been doing. Yeah. And these people were waiting in line in the middle of the Mark Twain dock. And it was at that time where people go, whoa, how they're maintaining and operating these rides. they need some sort of oversight, because there was no real oversight beforehand to make sure they were doing their jobs properly. If there was an accident in which somebody was seriously hurt who was an employee, OSHA could come in and investigate after.
Yeah.
But beforehand there was no way to check, and so that began a number of people, politicians, trying to pass some laws, and California eventually did pass a law, mandating inspections and before and after, and different hoops that amusement park operators in the state had to go through. And that really, within 5 years, by the time the Big Thunder Mountain accident happened, that really sort of took off. And ironically, the same lawyer who represented the victims on Big Thunder was the same lawyer who represented the victim on the Columbia. And he will say that investigating and trying his case in the time of Big Thunder was 1,000 times easier because of the law and how open Disney now was forced to be, that it wasn't just 5 years earlier.
Yeah, because you say that for the first time after the Big Thunder incident. So and you go into great detail, which is of course exactly what I need, because I'm not very smart.
Before you go to bed, right?
Before I go to bed, yeah. So one of the train that was being pulled was a clicking noise, and it got pulled off for maintenance, and it was tagged that it wasn't ready to go out, but it went out for service. And that's the train that derailed and all this kind of stuff. So, but after that, for the first time, OSHA was the first on the scene, and Disney had no chance to clean anything up, as they did, like with the sailing ship Columbia, where they were cleaning the deck and nobody called the cops for 5 hours, and the cops had to hear about it secondhand. There was none of that. OSHA was right there and shut it down. And apparently, Disney was when they walked the scene was for the first time, after OSHA let them finally.
No, exactly right. Yeah. And it was a huge difference, because now the lawyer knew, okay, I'm going in for the first time when Disney's going in for the first time. And they could, they knew, okay, the scene as it is now hasn't been tampered with.
Yeah.
And it was they're getting an honest picture and can recreate exactly what happened and why. And it just made that case so much easier for them to prove. And again, it was a case of victims who were not doing anything wrong.
Right.
They weren't in the wrong place. They were, sitting on a roller coaster, just riding a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Not doing anything wrong, and due to failures on the part of Disney and some employees and some procedures, bad things happen.
The next ride I want to talk about, just, the last one, because I don't want to give all the juicy bits away, but Indiana Jones. We're all a huge fan of the Indiana Jones ride. And it seems like Disney sort of changed their tone with regards to reporting injuries and incidents on that ride. Can you talk a little bit about the reasoning behind that, if that's even true? Maybe I got the wrong impression.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, the reason why is as time went on, either reporting requirements of that were part of that California state law was that they had to, any serious accident had to be paperwork filed that the public could then go. I mean, they weren't running ads on the front of the paper saying, "Hey, somebody just got hurt on my ride," but it was filed in such a way that if the public was interested, they could go and find out, okay, there's been X number of accidents over X period on this attraction. So that's part of it. But that ride, when it first opened in 1995, generated an insane number of accidents, and well, it's not even really accidents is probably the wrong word.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say unintentional or non-accident injuries.
Okay, all right.
And complaints, because with most of the other rides, the vast majority of incidents, injuries stemmed out of some incident. Somebody tripped or cars collided. But with Indiana Jones, it was the nature of the attractions that was hurting people. The ride was running exactly as it was designed to ride. It wasn't, suddenly stopping when it wasn't supposed to. it was suddenly stopping because it was supposed to. That was the ride, because it was designed to seem like this crazy, life-threatening ride, not realizing that it actually was threatening lives and how it was shaking people around like rag dolls.
Yeah.
And,
even now,
the idea of Indiana Jones was to make all the movements of the attraction random.
Yeah.
So that, cause especially, and I don't know how much people talk about this now, but variability was a big buzzword at Imagineering back in the 90s. And what that meant is that they just introduced a bunch of movie-based attractions, which were very unpopular because a movie-based attraction never changes. So you go and see, whatever the Canada film at Epcot or whatever, you see that. Okay, that's nice. I've seen it once. I don't have to see it again because it's exactly the same every single time I go. So the idea was, okay, we've got to design more rides that are different so people want to come back over and over again, and then we'll sell, and this is when they started doing it, starting marketing and selling annual passes, because we can get the same people to come over and over and over again because we're offering them attractions that are different every time they ride them. This isn't the Tiki Room. This is something which is fresh and different and completely new every time you ride it. The downside of that with Indiana Jones is if you have no idea what's coming next, you can't brace yourself.
Right.
And if you're suddenly going to be thrown to the left and then the right, and then we're suddenly going to stop, and then all of a sudden we're going to take off, you're just literally at the mercy of that ride. And so people would get off the ride, half crippled.
Yeah.
So Disney started toning it down a little bit during previews of the ride, and then over the years they've been forced to drastically tone it down. And it's still exciting, and it still whips people around, and it has its variable allure that people enjoy, but it's not nearly as severe as it was because people were just getting hurt without anything going wrong.
Yeah, and even cast members apparently were reporting that, hey, I'm getting injured. Also, this isn't cool. And then
absolutely.
Yeah, and so what? Apparently, 5 years or so into the opening of the ride, or in your book, you say on July 17th, 1995, there was a lady who was injured and essentially died from her injuries. She had a brain bleed, similar to shaken baby syndrome, tore a blood vessel in her brain, and her lawyer was asking for the initial complaint letters and injury logs from that ride, and Disney was stonewalling for 2 years. The judge fined the park lawyer $7,000 and ordered them to turn over the records, and that was kind of like a treasure trove of unpublicized injuries, plus, and that's fine and good, but plus numerous letters from guests begging the park to tone down the ride. That to me is insane.
It is.
That the park didn't even listen. But, we have on one side we have the injuries. On the other side we have guests writing us, taking time out of their life to tell us that it's too insane and I'm not going to go back and I can't recommend other people go back. And it took someone dying to make this happen.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, and that injury was, there were numerous people who suffered those brain bleed type attractions on Indiana Jones as well. There's a couple people who've suffered that same type of injury on Space Mountain, on California Screamin', and I think one on the Maliboomer. That's a tough one for Disney because with a lot of those people, it's sort of a pre-existing condition that they have.
Yeah.
That I don't know if they have a fragile brain, or because as much as I'm not a lawyer, I'm even more not a doctor.
You're doing great on both fronts. You're doing fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But Disney's in a tough spot because if those people have a pre-existing condition, which the people don't even know about,
right?
How it makes who can protect who from whom?
Yeah, right. That's the question. So, okay, I want to fast forward real fast. Fast forward fastly. Again, I speak for a living. I'm totally much eloquently.
You talk real good.
Thank you. Thank you. I speak even better. Let's talk about DCA, because there were a couple assertions in your book, and maybe you came right out and said it, but which I totally agree, that basically your premise is DCA was a carefully engineered place for the lawyers to avoid as many injuries as possible, which is why they have, more restaurants and shopping areas than actual rides. Is that true? Did I get that right?
That is 100% true. Yeah. I don't know where you read that, but it was, yes. It's completely accurate. No, it's true. It was this was when DCA was designed, was when Disney was first in the late 90s and early 2000s, when they're first coming to grips with we have to take a new attitude in how we handle and treat and attack lawsuits. And the idea with DCA was, what kind of attractions can we put in here that will generate zero attractions? Zero lawsuits. That's right. And zero attractions, that's not far off either.
Seriously.
So A, there were very few attractions.
Yeah.
And B, the vast majority of them were types of attractions that were not only not expensive to build, but very easy to be sure that guests won't be placed in anything resembling a dangerous situation. A lot of movie-based attractions, exhibit attractions, little kiddie attractions that move at an extremely slow pace. And they were basically just, a handful of attractions that were the big marquee attractions, where they realized, okay, we've got to have a big roller coaster. We've got to have Soarin'. We've got, there were a handful that there was just no way to make sure there was nobody could get hurt. But even those were designed, with everything they'd learned from the previous park to make them absolutely as lawsuit-proof as possible.
Like Bugs Land.
And Bugs Land was the ultimate. You take all those goals that I just described.
Yeah.
Very few attractions. Go very slow. Low capacity. Yeah. Low amounts of fun, entertainment, and enjoyment. As little appeal to anyone as possible.
Right.
I assume if nobody wants to ride on the attraction, nobody can get hurt. Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe that's a good one.
The key of that, of course, is the bumper car ride, in which you don't really bump.
No, you barely move on that
tuck and roll. I don't know. Have you guys been on the tuck and roll?
Yeah, Taryn and I, we got in line for it once. My wife is one of the co-hosts here, and we stood in line, and there was nobody waiting in line, and the attraction was maybe full. I don't remember, and the cast member kind of looks over at us, and they were like, this might not be the ride for you guys. Essentially, is what she said. And I look out there, and I'm like, am I looking at a picture of what's happening, and no, they're just crawling along, and we're like, we really appreciate you not wasting time, and we left. So yes and no.
Yeah, well, I got you, because I'm sure you walked faster through that queue than the vehicles were moving at the time, and that 100% was designed so that, yes, it's bumper cars, because we know little kids want to bang into each other, but to go so slow, and the bumpers and protection devices be so thick and sturdy that it's very hard to tell when you make contact with another vehicle, which sucks all the fun out of crashing into something.
Right.
So except for its absence of fun, it did solve the problem that it doesn't generate any lawsuit.
Well, and from a certain perspective, it's a huge success, Terrence. See, I keep telling you about it.
Yeah,
it's a successful area, just maybe not for fun.
You're exactly, yes.
And the final ride I want to talk about, which is I hated this ride. I'm glad it's gone. Luigi's Tires. In your book on page 16, you're talking about people really wanted the old Flying Saucers ride back, and legal got a hold of it and insisted the vehicles be so laden, as you say, with safety mechanisms that they were practically unmovable.
Yep.
And I definitely agree. And a few of us in the room, we were annual pass holders for only a little bit longer, and we got to go to the annual pass preview. And there were we walk into the circle the area and watch the ride happen. And they're in Cars Land, and there's tons of beach balls. And I'm like, why did they put a bunch of beach balls in? But in your book, you're like, they were hoping to preoccupy people that were either bored or frustrated that they couldn't make the ride move. And to me, that's yet another ride that could have been really cool. I did like the concept, but it was so scaled back because of safety. I mean, who wants to be safe? Give me a crash helmet. Like, I'm fine with wearing a helmet and a suit. I'm all for that. Mm-hmm. And then let me go on a ride that's actually fun in that area.
Did you ever ride that ride?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You did?
I did.
One time.
We didn't go anywhere.
I sat on
We
that
sat
ride.
on it.
Yeah.
I know. I rode it as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't think you had done it.
No, I did it. I think I did.
Yeah, we even stood in line for it.
That's a sign of surrender on a ride when you have to add beach balls to make sure people are actually
But then the winds
having fun on your attraction.
Yeah, but then the Santa Ana winds, or whatever they're called, kept blowing all the balls down towards the Tower of Terror or whatever, so they had to get rid of the balls too because it wasn't working.
Well, actually, that was another change that had to be because of lawsuits, and that was it was during the first cast member previews they had. There were no balls, beach balls. It was just you get on it and they had the technology, unlike back in the day of flying saucers, where this could have been just an amazing, E-level, E-ticket level attraction.
Yeah.
You imagine just literally flying in space and crashing into each other. As the Imagineers who designed it got to enjoy it when they were working on it and when they created it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the funnest thing ever. And then the lawyers came in and said, no, you got to slow it down. Okay, you got to add this bumper. Okay, you got to add this belt and this protective thing, so that you literally were going so slow, and they were so hard to move at all that there was. You literally thought you were, especially if you couldn't figure out how to move it at all.
Right.
And some people couldn't.
No,
I mean, you couldn't. It required a little practice and a little moving your body in the right way, and so a large percentage of the riders, some would move a little, some would move none.
Yeah,
I moved none.
Halfway through the
None.
previews, they added those beach balls. Unfortunately, these giant beach balls. They're they're just these huge. I don't know, like 6 feet or however big they were.
Yeah, they were big. They're not standard.
Giant diameter beach balls, which people love, to be fair. But that was probably the most popular thing about the attraction, that there wasn't moving.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when people weren't looking, some people would get banged in the head with those balls, and that's all it took was one woman who was, and she's about a 60-year-old woman exiting one of the tires after an attraction, got hit in the head with one of the balls and said it
Oh, jeez.
strained her neck,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
'cause
she
beach
filed
balls hurt.
suit that she was, she was injured by a wayward flying beach ball,
Yeah.
and sure enough, that was the end of the beach balls. And now
Ugh, what a turd.
the poor attraction was left to, entertain people just by itself with no beach balls. And the line, which had been, the first time I went on it was a 2-hour line.
Oh.
The last time I went on it was a walk-on because
They became
no beach balls.
They were the most exciting
Right.
benches in the park. That's why.
Yeah, that's and Tara and I, last time we were in the park I think it was the last week Luigi's was running, and we're like, look, we got to get on it at least once. Never even been down the line, and I really am a big fan of how they theme the queue and stuff. Here, I think it's really great. And I walked in Luigi's, and I was like, wow, I spent more time in the queue looking at all the details because I would never see it again than I did on the ride, and I was like, wow, this is the first ride I've ever been on where the best part of it was going through the line.
Yeah. Well, the second time.
I believe it.
The second time.
what was the
Tower of
first?
Terror was the first time.
The Tower of Terror, yes.
Yeah.
Forget Tower of Terror. Well, David, we've taken up almost an hour of your time right now, and I really appreciate it. So I want to let you go. I want to have you back on eventually because there's so much more to cover. I want to talk about the Happy Hearts program, people renting wheelchairs and such, the ESVs. the whole segue, like all this kind of stuff that you cover in your book so very well. But,
Absolutely.
I do have 7 questions for you. So we do a thing with some interviewers or people we interview. It's kind of like the inside the actor's studio. These really introspective and very, very well crafted, if I do say so myself, questions. If you're down for that.
I look forward to it.
Okay, good. Here we go. Here's the first one. What is your favorite Disney attraction?
It's a Jungle Cruise.
Okay. What is your least favorite?
It's California Adventure. That's.
Can I hang up on it?
I have to think of that to give an honest answer.
Go ahead.
My least favorite Disney attraction. You know what? I'm not. There's nothing. I was never a big fan of Interventions.
Okay. That's good enough.
My thing. There's probably something even worse, but that's the only one that comes to mind that I really avoided.
No, that's fair.
All right. Pie-eyed Mickey or round-eyed Mickey?
Is slanty-eyed Mickey one of the choices?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. All right. I could go. I like one of each.
Okay. You would. For some reason, I think you would. That's a very almost lawyer, not quite a lawyer, not quite a doctor answer.
Yeah, I don't want to commit.
Okay, that's fair enough. What old ride should they bring back to the parks?
They should bring back the People Mover. That's not even.
Yeah.
There's not even. I mean, Skyway would be my favorite, but it'll never happen. But the one they easily could. There's no reason they shouldn't. The one that would suck 10,000 people an hour off the pathways.
Oh man, right? What current ride?
It needs it.
What current ride should they remove?
What current ride should they remove? I don't want them to take anything away. I like them all.
Okay.
I really did. The one I didn't like, Interventions,
It's gone.
It's gone. And they're going to open it up again, and unless they recently did. I guess they did. Did it close down again?
I think it's open.
Because what they're doing now is they're pulling all the superheroes out, and they're going to
Superhero
create
HQ.
sort of a Star Wars Land Museum.
Yeah, they have that in there now.
Where the Marvel characters went.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that's been reopened yet. But,
the House of Tomorrow is
doesn't want to
gone.
close it again.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, who is your favorite Disney character?
My favorite Disney character is probably the genie from Aladdin.
Ooh,
Nice.
I like that.
All right, good
Nice.
choice. And then finally, if you could travel back in time and meet Walt Disney, what would you tell him?
I would say you're getting out just in time. Actually, you know what? That's not actually true because a lot of folks I know agree with me on this. Is that in a sense the late '60s were Disneyland's best time. In a sense, he just missed Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion and the all-new Tomorrowland, which was actually new and neat and different. And so, in a sense, he left just a couple of years too quick. If I saw him, I'd just say thank you. I mean, it's just, you think of us talking how many years, 50 years after he died, about, the wonderful things that started out of his brain, none of which would have been around.
Totally.
And, giving us livelihoods and entertainment and places to share great times with our friends and families that only would have happened because of him.
This whole conversation would never have happened, for sure.
Exactly right.
Yeah. David, where can people buy your book, man?
They can buy it, probably the easiest way is probably online at this point. Go to Amazon and check out The People versus Disneyland, How Lawsuits and Lawyers Transformed Magic, as well as my previous books. And if they like Mouse Tales, crazy, wacky stories of interesting things that have happened at Disney over the years, this is the same sort of stuff. Just more crazy stories.
I loved it. David, thanks for taking the time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you guys.
Cheers. Nice guy.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Good
That was
interview.
awesome.
Whew. And again, man, I don't plan on these things going very long. But
This
then I
show's
look up and
particularly
it's like an
packed.
hour and 4 minutes.
Well, it's all right. This is only a 15-minute podcast. So
We
it's fine.
interviewed 3 people in this one show. That was
We did.
that was pretty intense.
It was a marathon, man, for sure. All right, before we get out of here, I want to give you the fact of the show. The famous singing busts in the graveyard of the Haunted Mansion as you pass through in your doom buggy. They're known as the Phantom Five, but they actually have names. Led by Uncle Theodore, voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft, we have from left to right Rollo Rumpkin, Cousin Algernon, Ned Nubb, and Phineas P. Pock.
All right.
Pock. P-O-C.
Did not know that.
Where'd they come up with these?
They're weird. This is the 60s, man. They were everything. Everything was groovy, baby.
Was he
I guess.
one Pac, and then that's why Tupac was Tupac?
Thank you for muting her.
Yeah. Jeez. I don't even think you went there, but I ain't mad at you. No.
Hey,
All
Bev, Bev, keep your head up, all right?
Don't cry,
Oh,
mama.
boy.
All right, everyone.
And you turned my mic off.
I did. We'll see you in the parks and, all that kind of stuff.